Hi, this is Antilles 58, and we're jumping right in here to my DKC All Stages submission for AGDQ 2018. Donkey Kong Country is a pretty straightforward game when it comes to speedruns. Basically, you just try to run and roll and jump as fast as you can, and pretty much every stage is just rolling to the right and dodging enemies. There's a few tiny differences, but for the most part, this first stage is kind of a really good example of some of the fundamentals of the run, which I'll get into more and more as we keep going throughout it. So all stages is exactly what it sounds like. It's the all stages category of the game. You have to beat every single stage in the game, but you can do that by any means possible. This second stage right here shows us using a bonus to get a little bit of extra boost through the level. As you can see right now, the exit for this bonus shoots you out really quickly, which leads to further along the stage. This particular commentary is indeed post-commentary. I did this run on Twitch with no mic, no camera, obviously. So, but it turned out to be a pretty solid run, and there's some interesting things to show off with it. So that's why I'm kind of doing some post-commentary with it as well. The goal for this submission here, I think, would be to do a race. My preferred category would be 101%, but 101% has movement that's very similar to any percent, and a lot of the tricks are the same as well. Even though 101 shows off a little bit more, any percent is still a pretty good example of what can be done. Tiny little hang up there where I ducked a little bit coming out of the gap, but overall pretty clean start to the run. Our next stage here is our first water stage in the game, and this is pretty much exactly what it looks like. Just try to swim and not get hit. But the thing that makes water stages particularly challenging is every single one of the corners that I'm trying to navigate. Like right there, you can see I've had a little bit of trouble going around those corners, and it really serves to show just how much time you can actually lose in these water stages. Right there, losing the fish is pretty bad as well. Ideally what you would do is go around there, clip through the octopus, and then get down here without too much trouble. So that is about a 3 to 4 second loss when you get hit there. But the goal is to take every corner as closely as possible without bonking. So those two little bonks right there again with the fish already show just how tricky these water stages can be. Ideally, you can look at this run in comparison to my 101 submission, which has much cleaner stages in some areas, but in other areas not as clean stages. And I think kind of what it shows together is that even if you don't have a perfect run, there's still a lot of ways to move really quickly through the game. And little mistakes like I have in most of the water stages in this level still don't prevent me from ending up with a really solid time when it's all said and done. This run in particular ends up getting a lot of one-frame tricks later on, which is pretty nice. Show off how much time those can really save. So we're coming up on our first boss here. The bosses in Donkey Kong Country 1 really aren't that interesting. It's pretty much just jump on the boss and don't get hit really quickly. This one's surprisingly tricky to optimize. You want to try to time all your hits on that boss at the moment right after he starts descending from the peak of his jump. You can see right there at the end I was a tiny bit early on the last hit, which caused me to bounce off and lose a second. So 351 isn't really a great World 1 time, and I actually, when I was doing this run live, I even considered resetting once I lost the fish in the water stage, but I was kind of sick of resetting this game, so I figured whatever, I'll just keep going, see what happens. And at this point I was already starting to think about going for a jump roll early in the game, but I'll explain a little bit more about what that is as we get closer. But that kind of becomes the story of this run, is those jump rolls. So this stage is our first incident of a developer-intended warp, so we're able to skip the first minecart stage, which is kind of a notorious stage in this game. It's the first exposure of those to all of us as kids, and this series gets really well known for its pretty punishing auto-scrolling levels. But here we are in Bouncy Bonanza, which is the first really difficult stage in the game. All these rolls here over these gaps can be a little precise, and timing that roll even to roll through those two enemies can be precise as well. And then this trick coming up here, these gap jumps are pretty tight, and then getting past these Bs involves some pretty precise movement as well. But I did it pretty cleanly here in this run. So we also see some of our first tire rolls in this stage, which is where you roll off the side of a tire like I did right there. It's a little bit tricky to learn, but once you get the feel for it, it helps you to move really, really smoothly throughout the game. So our next couple levels also feature developer-intended warps. In this one, you just run to the left and you skip what's a pretty hard stage, typically. But you can just roll through these crocs, and they actually can't hurt you while you're rolling, which is really nice. Really quick level. Now, the next stage is our first super jump, and that's something that's really important. Super jump is a glitch where if you get hit and your Kong that gets hit goes off the top of the screen, he basically flies up. So watch Donkey here. He gets hit, and he jumps up really high. So now Donkey's flag is set, so he is currently, the game thinks he's in a flying state, so when I bounce off an enemy and hold jump, I continue to fly with that same momentum. And that lets me get to a developer-intended warp there without running to the right, grabbing a tire, rolling it across a gap, and doing some hard stuff. So it's a little bit faster to do that. But that super jump idea becomes really, really important in this run, and I'll talk more about it later. But right here is basically the moment where I decided, all right, I'm going to go for a one-frame trick and see if I can hit it. There's a one-frame trick coming up in the third level of World 3 that is basically a 50% chance to either you have a 50% chance to lose the run, basically. So since I'm kind of having a bad run here, I'm supposed to be probably closer to 640, maybe even 638, 639. If I had done those stages cleanly, thinking, all right, I'm at 647. I'm definitely going to be going for that trick. So here there's another warp that only shows up when you have Donkey in front, which is another one of the reasons that losing Donkey on the boss before this is a little bit unfortunate. But again, what I'm hoping this comes across with this is that even if things go wrong, there's kind of always a way you can recover, and there's different strategy you can use to sort of make up for those little tiny mistakes. And this run shows some of that. Another warp there, but coming up here, Forest Frenzy, the level I've been referring to. There's a trick in this game that's pretty famous and been featured prominently at a lot of GDQs called jump rolls, where if you press Y on the one frame when you're about to hit an enemy, but you're still kind of able to roll, you can get kind of an infinite roll. And by combining that with the super jump I described earlier, right here, push Y, you can go flying really, really quickly through the air. So this trick basically saved the run for me. If I didn't get that trick, that particular one, I would have lost my super jump and I would have died. So the super jump normally in this stage is used to fly over all this auto-scrolling stuff with those ropes. But instead, if you try to risk it to press Y on that one frame while holding B to do the super jump and bounce off of an enemy, you can do some pretty crazy stuff. So I decided to keep going. This level right here is probably one of the coolest levels in all stages. It's one of the big differences between all stages and 101. Just a lot of really tight movement with Diddy, and it really shows off something called an extended roll right here. You can kind of see I got a little bit of boost in the air, and the way you pull that off is by tapping Y to start rolling through an enemy, letting go of Y while you hit the enemy, and then repressing Y right after the roll. So it's a very technical trick, and each one has a little bit of a different feel to it. There's another double extendo coming up right here. So didn't quite get the full roll over the gap, but it sort of shows that the really technical nature of quick movement through this game is pretty important. So really actually a really fun stage to do with Diddy. So this next trick coming up is something called a map warp, which allows you to skip most of the next level. So it's all stages, but all we have to do is beat every stage. We don't actually have to play through the whole stage, so it's not like a warpless category. But if you're able to press any face button while on the corner of the map, the game tries to send you somewhere because it doesn't know it thinks you're stopped on a level at a corner right there, but it doesn't know where to send you. So just so happens that that particular corner that I was at sends me to the end of the next stage in World 3. So that's why we take the plane back and try to mash the face buttons on that corner. So the reason it took me so long is that is indeed a one-frame trick. You have only one frame at the corner of the map, and I was mashing all 4 face buttons with my fingers to try to get it, and it's just kind of, you have to get lucky. There's sort of some skill to it, but especially if you've been doing a lot of runs in a row, it can be rough. So I lost a little bit of time there with the by not getting the map warp right away. So again, bad water stages is sort of the theme of this run. The fish is my forever nemesis, and he makes himself known in this run. But just that beginning part was rough. The rest of this I recovered decently and got through the stage pretty cleanly. The reason the fish can be so frustrating is his hitbox is kind of janky. Like, you think you're moving quickly and about to charge through an enemy, but then all of a sudden you get hit, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. This boss is probably one of the more technical ones in the run. So you grab that barrel, jump up, and you let go to try to throw right as his stinger is above you, or her stinger is above you. And then after that, it's just a matter of counting the number of times she buzzes at you and jumping right at the moment that she becomes able to be hit again. So this is probably, might be the most technical boss in the game. And it's not technical so much as just good timing. But you can see, even though I got that super jump roll, I still lost time with the bad map warp and the time lost in the water stage. Snow Barrel Blast here, though, is when, really World 4 is when the game really starts to get going. Worlds 1, 2, and 3 are kind of like reset territory, where you spend a lot of time just trying to get through and hope you have some solid times. Because World 4 is where the game can really start to punish you. This stage is the cause of many, many nightmares for small children with the how difficult it is in these barrel sections, but we're able to actually skip most of the barrel boost sections. That's a little trick called a slope jump. By grabbing the tin can and jumping off of a slope, you get a little bit of a boost. And here we do more extended rolls, so tap, 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 jump. There you go. Extending off those neckies, and that one helps you to skip pretty much the entire tricky barrel section. Which, not that we wouldn't be able to do it, obviously we put enough time into these games that it's definitely doable, but it's just a heck of a lot faster to take that shortcut underneath. Slipside Ride is another really cool level that, unfortunately, this category makes too short. 101 lets you see a little bit more of this stage, but timing a jump off of that crocodile and then doing a little trick by holding down on the rope lets you kind of climb over the top there. I missed it in this run, but in the 101 run I'm submitting, I do hit that trick, so that's for contrast, that's a good example of how to speed this up. But pretty much it's just quick. You just try to jump up this rope pretty quickly and get out of the level. There's a lot more to it in 101. But then Ice Age Alley is a pretty scary stage. Really, really important that you do not lose the bird here. But there's a lot of really, really close places to do that. So timing this jump is pretty important. You want to flap and try to land right there. If you flap a little too far, you're going to waste time falling. If you don't flap enough, you're going to end up hitting the pit. So right there, timing that jump off that tire is really important. And then getting a full jump here and flapping enough so that you don't go in that bonus and are able to run over that Manky Kong is pretty important too. So pretty clean stage here. Scary stage though. So after that, you kind of reach a point where, okay, you beat Worlds 1, 2, and 3, which usually you're resetting a lot in there if you make any mistakes. You got through the first 3 stages of World 4, all of which are hard in their own ways. And you get this intermission here. So Octopus Chase is a pretty straightforward level. It seems like it'd be pretty easy, especially in a speedrun. If you're just kind of casually watching, you think, okay, nothing's really going on, nothing interesting here. But right there is another good example where I was really far to the right on that wall, and I came back to the left, so all the time that I spent going above the corner and coming back is time that I lost. What you really need to do in these water stages, and it's most obvious in this one, and I hinted at it earlier, but you need to try to take every single corner as precisely as you can. You want to have basically the maximum horizontal or vertical direction to go around each corner. Like here, I needed to try to be going vertically as quickly as I could. All of these ones here, I need to be going as fast as I can vertically. Up till this last one, I want to get as much horizontal speed as I can going around that corner without losing any time going vertically. So pretty much every time there's a corner, I try to have a visual cue to know exactly when to go to the other way. This is one of the trickier ones. I got that corner though. You can see I didn't bonk at all. So there's visual cues for every single one of these. Like right now, I turn to the right, and then here I go up and try to get through. So each corner can lose you time, and it can add up to seconds over the course of the run. So even though the viewers kind of tend to tune out at this stage, and it becomes a really good time for donations or just listening and enjoying the beautiful music, if in a speedrun, you're still paying really close attention. It's not as stressful though, because there's no risk of dying, which is nice. Pretty much every other stage in this game has a huge risk of dying, which is kind of what makes it fun. It can make it frustrating, but also make it really fun, as you have to play at a really high level and stay really focused for a pretty long time. Not a lot of breaks. So a couple bonks in this stage, but overall it was a much cleaner water stage than the other ones that I have in this particular run. Little bonk right there as well. But you can get a sense too of how much optimization needs to go into this level when you see those little bonks costing time. Next level coming up, Torchlight Trouble, is a pretty interesting level. It's fun, but it's also really hard to optimize. The thing that it shows off is that the fire, it actually doesn't hurt you unless you're right towards the middle of it. So as long as you land on the edge of those tin cans there, you end up being safe. But if you're a little bit to the right, or to the side, you've got a really good chance of falling. If you're a little bit more towards the middle, you've got a really good chance of getting hit. So you have to be pretty precise with your movement on those cans, which is something that comes into play a lot more in the stage after this one. But this is right here, probably might be one of my favorite stages in the game. There is a new super jump roll that was discovered a couple months ago for this level, but it's kind of not a great deal. It saves like maybe 12 seconds or so, but you lose 6 seconds if you miss it, so it's not a great risk reward. But so I don't quite go for it yet. But all the same time, the technical movement in this level with all the tire rolls, the screen scroll right there to jump and do blind jumps onto tires that are moving and rolling off of them while they're coming towards you is pretty intense. So it's a really fun stage, and I'm not quite ready to give it up and go for a jump roll yet, but soon enough, and we're through. So overall, pretty clean World 4. A couple tiny mistakes here and there, but at this point, I was feeling pretty good about this run. So little trick here, we try to use this bounce off this naughty to get up as high as we can and hit him at the peak of his jump. Same as the other naughty, the key with this guy is to hit him right after he starts coming down. So that time I was a little bit late. If I could have hit him a little bit higher up, it would have saved a tenth of a second or so, but not a huge deal. So this next stage has it's easier to see the setup for that super jump roll here. So watch as I get hit with Diddy, and watch Diddy's going to jump up off the top of the screen. And now I'm going to grab Diddy back again. Remember that flag to go up is set on Diddy. I jump and I press Y, and I got the jump roll. So now I've combined pressing Y and getting a jump roll with the super jump that I set up. I'm going to let go of the B button right about there. And now I'm falling. So that's kind of the neat thing about this, is the game shoots you up really, really high, so letting go of B causes you to fall through most of the rest of the level. And because you did the super jump roll, the game keeps rolling speed through pretty much the whole level, so you're going really, really fast. So that's a pretty cool trick. This stage is much, much more interesting in 101, the one we're doing right here. There actually are 4 jump roll opportunities in this stage in 101, so check out that submission for some cool stuff there. Now, elevator antics. one of the more difficult stages. So this is why this game starts to get really stressful. It's pretty much everything after the Octopus Chase, the water level in World 4 is just filled with opportunity to kill you. Like, getting hit anywhere in this stage is a really, really significant time loss. To the point where a lot of times people don't grab Donkey at all, just because the safety really doesn't buy you that much. So yeah, timing all these jumps on these platforms, doing a little bit of a screen scroll there to get those positioned properly, and then rolling through as quickly as we can. Now I face left here to set up the position of these platforms, and by positioning them correctly you can do this little roll here and get onto that one and save basically an elevator cycle. It saves about 5 seconds. Pretty important. Now we're coming up on the final water stage of the game, and for this run, fortunately, the final water stage of the game, water stages were not good to me in this run. I'm normally better at them than this, but this is definitely the hardest one. Fortunately, I was able to re-grab on guard there and get my full speed going up this. It's important to have your full vertical momentum going up that path. So I'm a little shaken up here. I kind of took that movement a little more slowly to try to gather myself and recover from the hit, but now I'm kind of back on my movement. So this is the place where it gets really important not to lose on guard. After this, there's nowhere to get him back. So getting hit is bad. Setting up a triple mincer clip here. 3, there we go, got through all of them. So that is the one redeeming factor of Fish movement in this game, is that he can clip through enemies if you time his charges just the right way, and that's most important in this particular stage, especially that part I just showed with the 3, clipping through the 3. So, but tiny bit of mistake there. I thought I was going to be fine hitting that fish, but he hit me, so that's what happens. So because I had all that fish loss in that last stage, I'm going to do another trick that has a 50% chance to kill me. This part here is, you're going to see this all the time. By walking off that ledge with Donkey, you can set up this roll through the air glitch. But since I'm able to roll and bounce off an enemy, I have 1 frame to press Y and get a jump roll. This is a normal jump roll. And now the problem with this one is it only saves about 3 to 4 seconds. But if you press it too late, you will not roll. You'll bounce off the enemy, and then you'll just fall to your death. So it's like it's really kind of stupid. I really probably shouldn't have gone for this, but because I had a bad water stage, I was thinking, all right, I need to do something to try to make up that time. It's a decent run, but I'm 12 seconds behind already, and if I can save these 3 or 4 seconds right here, it's worth it. So I did, and I got lucky and got the jump roll. I probably wouldn't go for that in a marathon setting unless I was like really far behind or something and just needed to do something desperate. But that's cool. So anyway, yeah, I stopped the jump roll because once you go over the platform, or you're about to hit the B, actually, is what it was. So I jumped out of there. Now, Blackout Basement is probably one of the coolest levels to watch in a speed run, and it's really just a lot of fun to do as well. Pretty much just have everything memorized. So honestly, the light really doesn't matter. Like, I know what to do at every single point. There's a few places, like right there, making sure I land on that tire where it's important. Grabbing that mid-barrel is just kind of a little extra safety, something I would probably do in a marathon. Here's a big extended roll to try to get across that gap. That's probably the scariest part of the whole stage. But after that, this is all really easy at this point. Nothing to be nervous about anymore. Even though the lights are out, we know exactly where to roll, exactly where to jump. Pretty straightforward. But still looks really cool. Got over the dude cleanly. That little dude at the end can be frustrating. Usually he doesn't hit you, but you'll bounce off of him and lose a second. So then Boss Dumb Drum. Exactly like he sounds. He's pretty dumb. Probably the easiest boss in the game. The biggest thing to do here is just, try to bounce off the first enemy and hit the other one in the air. I like to just try to jump diagonally up the bananas. There's no reason. You don't need to jump to avoid getting hit or anything. I just like to try to jump at that same angle just to be fun. Sometimes I'll just walk around. You got to do something to keep yourself entertained for this boss. You do need Donkey though, because Diddy cannot kill those whatever their names are, clumps, or these armies by jumping on them. So that's why we put Donkey in front. And Donkey's animation, like his little celebration animation here, is actually a little bit faster. So saved about 10 seconds there. That second jump roll definitely helped. So now we're coming into World 6, which kind of turns into Jump Roll City. This is where things get fun. So this stage right here is really important. This might be the most important stage in a speedrun of this game. A lot of times, whether you get a PB comes down to whether or not you do this stage correctly. Because yes, it does have a jump roll. It actually has 2 jump roll opportunities, but the first one is really, really precise and carries a big risk of death. So it's not something that most people recommend going for unless you're like trying for a world record, and I'm not doing that yet. But right there, you can get a jump roll off the Kremling on the left. We call it Krem Tut. This stage is called Tanked Up Trouble. So Krem Tut, or there's another one here where you can get a jump roll off the bird on the right there. This movement is all trying to set up the position. But since I rolled through the bird, you can see I was too early for the jump roll. And that's unfortunate because getting that jump roll saves 42 seconds. So because I was off on a single frame, this run ends up being 42 seconds slower than it could be. And that said, that's why I think this game really, really makes for a great race. And we showed that, I think, at the relay we had at AGDQ, where I think, I'm pretty sure it was this level, or I think Silent Wolf was still ahead, but then Eason and Fathlo both hit the jump roll and Silent Wolf didn't, and that changed the lead, you know, and that kind of thing can happen all over World 6 in this game. So basically, it doesn't matter how far ahead you are. If you miss the jump roll, anybody behind you can catch up and pass you. But if you're really far behind, you're never really out of it, because if you hit a couple jump rolls late in the game, and this game is really, really backloaded with jump rolls, you're able to catch up and possibly win. So it's a really exciting race submission. We've never had a 4-way race of this game at a GDQ event, and more specifically, 101% hasn't been shown in a really long time. So I think that would be a really, really good race to do. It has just as many more jump roll opportunities actually than this one does, but unfortunately I did not get this one. But it's hard to be perfect, and the estimates cover for not getting all the jump rolls. So anyways, we're on to this stage where we use Rambi. Rambi, as Claude put it best, actually handles like a rhinoceros. He's terrible in this game. Movement with Rambi is super awkward. It's hard to do quickly. He's got like built-in input delay where he reacts pretty slowly. But ideally, what we could do is just hold right the whole time. Now, he does move pretty quickly, so if you can do it smoothly, it's nice. And the best part is giving him the Yoshi treatment. See ya, Rambi. And throwing him down that pit to get a little bit of a boost. It's interesting when you get hit sometimes in this game off of an animal buddy, you get like this huge boost of momentum and go flying in the direction you were moving. So that a lot of times if you get hit with Espresso and Ice Age Halley, that'll throw you into a pit, but here we're able to use it to skip a pit, so that's nice. And here we go. Here's another great example of the super jump roll. Diddy jumps up. We get hit with Donkey. I'm holding B, tap Y, bam. Got the super jump roll. So this one's really neat in that you actually, if you go back and look, I position myself so I roll off of a couple different snakes, and rolling through enemies gives you more speed in a super jump roll, just like it does when you roll through enemies in the game normally. So this stage is pretty tough to do quickly. Moving through all those little barrels that shoot enemies optimally is hard. There's not a huge risk of death in this stage, but it's hard to do quickly, so that jump roll saves like 30 plus seconds. It's really, really nice. But now we're going on to Loopy Lights, and at this point I was starting to feel a little bit nervous because I knew hitting that one jump roll was huge. Like I knew I needed to hit one of the major jump rolls in World 6, and that was one of them. So I grabbed Donkey there just for a little bit of safety, just to give me that extra boost of confidence to go for stuff. I'm not really, it would still be really slow if I got hit with Donkey, but knowing that I won't die is sort of that little extra boost to know, hey, go for the stuff. It's not going to completely kill your run. So be fast. Almost got hit right there, so I think the nerves were probably catching up to me. But again, another stage we haven't memorized what to do. this is really cool. We got some roll through that enemy and then tire rolls in the dark. And then moving through these bees. So at this point, I'm feeling pretty good. This end of this stage isn't too hard once you get through there. The tire rolls in the dark are probably the hardest part of this level. I've definitely had runs that were pretty good runs where I died to those tire rolls, which is sad. But that's Donkey Kong Country. And lastly, platform Perils. Easily the hardest platforming stage in the game. Top 3 certainly. And just for good measure, there's a jump roll thrown in as well. The thing about the jump roll here is not only is the jump roll saving about 15 or so seconds, but the second half of the stage is really hard. So you get the jump roll, and you're able to not only go faster, but you lose the risk of death from all this junk. Like, look at all this junk. This is crazy. All these platforms. It's really, really cool stage to watch. But when you hit this jump roll, it's a really nice sense of relief. I have a tendency to always hit this jump roll on runs that are already like a minute behind or something like that, where say I miss all the other jump rolls and the run is dead, and then I just keep playing it out, and then I'll hit this jump roll. It's like, great. The time I could have used the practice of the level, I hit the jump roll. So anyways, that's pretty much the game. These last 2 bosses are pretty straightforward, as all of them are. This one's just all about counting. You jump over the first one there, and the next one you jump over 2 before you jump on the tire. There are a couple tiny ways to optimize this boss, but they really don't save a lot of time, and just help you to try to hit the Neki at the earliest possible moment. So it's basically as soon as he coughs out that last coconut or whatever, you can hit him. So trying to time those hits as well as you can is the key. But that said, I was pretty excited about this run at this point because I knew I was on a good pace, and once I hit that last jump roll, I thought I might have done it. And then when I see that minus 26, seeing that I was at 34-25, knowing I didn't have to have a perfect K. Rool fight, I just had to be careful, and I would probably get the 33. I was pretty excited at this point. So, but I hope what this submission can do is just sort of show how fun this game can be moving quickly, how much technical movement there is, and how many opportunities there are for lead changes in a race. Just those jump rolls basically took what wasn't a super clean run and turned it into a really, really good run. My 101 run that I'm going to submit is kind of the exact opposite of that. I don't get a lot of jump rolls in that run, but everything else is pretty darn solid. So you have a really solid movement run with no jump rolls, and it's a really good time. Or you have kind of a sloppy run, like this one is, with a bunch of jump rolls, and it ends also being a really good time. So there's lots of ways that this game can reward you. There's a lot of ways that it can punish you. Of course, having a bad run with no jump rolls is like worst case scenario, but again, estimates account for that too. So yeah, that's about it. That's Donkey Kong Country, all stages. Not really. Credits. Might as well just throw a Kappa in there. Got all the Ks. Shoutouts to Commander, the most important role in a game development team. The end. So the cannonball part, as you might expect, is indeed the hardest part, so at this point it's all just gravy. I could be timing these attacks a little bit better. The goal is to try to land on him without seeing any of his crown moving through the air. We call it crownless. Since I did this run a couple months ago, I have gotten a lot better at that. So my K. Rool fight tends to be a lot cleaner these days than it was at this time. But all the same, still won, still pulled off the 33. I think puts me in 12th place overall, and definitely towards the top of the list of folks submitting to AGDQ. So anyways, thank you guys for watching and for your consideration, and hope to see you in January.